No, instead, the person who's in the passenger seat has an important responsibility as part of the car, as part of what we do in a patrol function, how we actually patrol our city. Remember, in law enforcement, we are not simply responders. We don't simply react. Our city expects us to go out and patrol. Look for bad things before they actually happen. Stop crime before it takes place. Not simply react to take a report after a crime has occurred, but to actually go out and find problems, see the trouble before it starts. And even your presence patrolling the city is meant to really hinder those who might want to do crime in your area, right? This is something we do all the time. We are not just reactive, we are proactive. Now, here's what it turns out that guy or gal in the passenger seat is actually doing. You might think he's just along for, or she's along for a free ride. Not the case at all. If you're working in a police car and you're in the passenger seat, you've got an important role to play in the car. Let me give you 3 things you're called to do, because I think these are 3 things that we as Christians are called to do. We're not just to sit in the pews, the free rider on the passenger side. No, we're actually called to do exactly what the passenger does in a police car. An important role that we must play as Christians, as first responders, not as free riders. And here's what those things are. The first thing you have to do if you're the passenger is you have to know the case. And here's what I mean. You have to know the law every bit as much as the guy who's driving. Because, like I said, we are going to have to patrol and see the crimes. And sometimes if you're driving, your responsibility is kind of staying on the road, make sure the car doesn't get in an accident. You know, if you're going to get in pursuit, your job is to be in pursuit, is drive the car in a way that is safe and is sound. These are things that are the responsibility of the driver. Well, that kind of takes you have to know something about the law in order to know how not to violate the law as a driver, for example. And you also have to know something about the law, so when you encounter somebody who's doing something they shouldn't do, you know how to react. Well, guess what? That responsibility is also for the passenger. The passenger doesn't get, it's not like this is not a ride-along, where you got a civilian in the car going for a ride, doesn't even know the law. No, the person in the passenger seat is just as much a scholar of the law as the person in the driver's seat. You both have the exact same training. By the way, when we're working in a police car, typically we switch every other night. Tonight you're the driver, tomorrow night you'll be the passenger, and it goes back and forth. I've worked with a couple of partners, but very few want to be in one position or the other all the time. We switch back and forth. So you have to know everything the driver knows, because guess what? Tomorrow you're the driver. Now, how does that relate to the church? Folks, you might think, the pastor's the driver. I don't really need to know what the pastor knows, do I? I mean, he's got some theology training. I don't need to be trained like that, do I? I don't need to know the law, the theology, the theological positions of the church throughout history, or what it is we believe as Christian fun. Do I really? After all, I've got a pastor. He's doing the driving. Really? This is why the church is so wide open and unprotected in terms of heresy that creeps into the church. Why does that happen? It happens because we don't know the law, the theology, as well as our pastors often do. So when a bad pastor comes along, or a bad teacher on TV comes along, or somebody tries to lead a movement that's heretical, we just don't even see it. We're not able to even determine what it is because we don't know the case. We have to know the case, not only for Christianity, but the theological case that underpins all of our understanding as Orthodox Christians. The second thing that passengers do in a police car, which makes them first responders rather than free riders, is that passengers see the case. Your eyes as passengers in a car like this are actually more available to the crime on the street going around than the driver. The driver's just trying to keep his eyes on the road, make sure he doesn't get in an accident. Hey, passengers, we are going to be the primary eyes. We're scanning constantly. We're looking down those dark alleys. Do we see somebody parked with taillights tapped? And are they checking out cars in the alley? We're looking for things that are not quite right, and trying to determine if a crime is occurring. We have to be able to see this. We got to be well trained to know what the law is, and then you have to be well trained tactically to what you're looking for and be very observant. Do you think we're really that way as Christians? Do you think most of us understand what we believe well enough to see everything through the lens of our Christian world? When you're a cop, you're seeing everything through the lens of what you know is criminal activity and everything through the lens of what you know is legal. But as Christians, we don't often view the world through our Christian worldview. And so when we see something in the movies, And we embrace this. We don't evaluate critically the ideas that the culture is throwing at us. And that's what we have to do. What passengers do in police cars is they evaluate critically what they're seeing, the behaviors that they're seeing people on the street do, so they can make a decision about whether they think that's actually criminal behavior or not. We have to do the same thing as Christians. Believing Christians, we need to evaluate the behaviors that we see around us to make sure that we evaluate them through our Christian worldview. Is this something we want to embrace? We want to promote? We want to encourage in the part of our kids? Do we know enough about what we believe so that we can see the lie before it gets us? The third thing that passengers do in police cars is they communicate the case. They know the case, they see the case, and they communicate the case. Do you realize that in a car, a two-man police car, the driver is driving, but you know the radio? The radio is handled by the passenger. So if you get involved in a pursuit, that driver, he's going to be driving and making sure he cuts the corners the way he needs to cut, that he's not losing ground on the person he's chasing, he's driving safely, he's doing all the things we're trained to do. And the passenger in the car is actually responding on the radio to the dispatch to tell them what we're doing, what we're seeing, all that stuff. As a matter of fact, we often call that guy the bookman, because that bookman is also going to be responsible for all the reports. So every other night, if you're the passenger, you're going to be communicating on the radio and probably writing paper. Now, if we get a lot of paper, we'll have to go back and forth, but the first responsibility for paperwork, for report taking, is typically the passenger. That's the chief communicator in the car. So you have to be trained to be able to write good paper and to also be able to communicate well on the radio under stress. Do you think as a church, as Christians who go to church every Sunday, we are good communicators? I don't often think we are. In fact, I think we're not prepared to communicate winsomely, tactically, under stress, without becoming belligerent or obnoxious. We aren't good communicators often. And this is another attribute where we are more like a free rider. Hey, the pastor's the communicator, right? The pastor's been studying how to communicate and taking preaching classes and teaching classes. I haven't taken those classes. I mean, come on. How am I going to know how to do that? Really? Well, guess what? Your pastor's not going to be at your shoulder the next time you bump into somebody you need to communicate the truth with. You're going to have to figure that out on your own. So it's important for us to be good communicators. So here are the three things that turn free riders into first responders. You got to know the case, you got to be able to see the case, and you got to be able to communicate the case. Hope that helps you. Take a little quick break, come back, one last quick thought on really sharing the case in our culture today.
Be sure to visit the Cold Case Christianity website daily to read Jim's blog, watch the weekly video, or listen to the Cold Case Christianity podcast. You'll also find great free resources, including the free downloadable monthly Bible insert. While you're there, be sure to sign up for Jim's daily case note email. Cold Case Christianity is designed to help you become a better Christian casemaker.
Okay, let's just talk for a second about why so few Christians actually ever end up being Christian casemakers. You know, why do we have more free riders than we have first responders? Well, I'll tell you, all of us who do these shows, on either NRB Network, or we have podcasts, or we have websites where we host videos, or we're traveling around the country speaking to groups all over the country. Why are we doing that? Well, I can tell you why I'm doing it. I had an entire career as a police detective, and I have a pension, so it's not like I'm doing it for the money. That's for darn sure. This is ministry. We want to change the direction of the church if we can do it, right? That's my hope. But you know what percentage probably of people we speak to actually are encouraged enough or actually energized enough to stand up and become fellow Christian casemakers, fellow thoughtful Christians who are willing and equipped to be able to make a case for what they believe? I'll bet you it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5%. It's not good. Why is that the case? And I hear it all the time. You know, I'll go back to a church a year, 2 years later, and really there's not much difference, although it's just there, you know, you don't see the kind of progress you'd hope for. Why is that? Well, I bet you this. I bet you if I was to encourage, if I said to you, the best piece of advice I could give you as a Christian is to eat more ice cream, whatever your favorite flavor is. I'll bet you about 98% of those hearing that message would jump up and start eating ice cream. They'd be eating it every day for the rest of their lives, thinking, hey, this is actually how to be a better Christian. Why? Because it's a lot easier to eat ice cream every day than it is to be able to equip yourself to make the case for what we believe as Christians. That's what it really comes down to. I had a case, several cases that actually went all the way to national attention and ended up on Dateline as homicides. And we won every one of them. And I can tell you, well, it's not because I'm super smart. I'm not. Many times the defense attorneys I was dealing with were far more accomplished, far more, far smarter, better orators. Even than maybe the attorneys. Although I got to tell you, the attorney I had on my side is a guy named John Lewin. That guy was a stud. He's still a stud. But I'll be honest, it's not as though we're always going to be the smartest person in the room. But I'll tell you what we will be. We will be the hardest working person in the room, hands down. We're going to know our case better than the other side will ever know it. Even if the other side takes 5 years to get us to trial, and that's happened. It doesn't matter. We spent 5 years before we filed the case. We now are 10 years into that case. We know that case better than anyone else. We also know every possible point of contention. We know every small crack, nook and cranny weakness of our case. We know every direction that other side may try to go in order to make the case against us. We know all of it. Every great high point and every low, dark weakness. We know the case better than anybody else. And not only that, we're willing to work harder to put together the paperwork, to put together the arguments, to build the presentations, to do whatever it takes to make the good case we have look just that good in front of a jury. It's not as though we outthink the other side, and sometimes we do, but really we outwork the other side. No one's going to work harder. Now, I tell you, you can only do that for a certain period of time, right before you're just an old man with white hair. Get that. But what better cause? At the time I was doing this, I'm thinking to myself, what better cause could there be than to bring justice to families who have waited 30 years because their loved one was murdered and no one was able to solve the case? And now we can bring, not closure, but justice to those who did the murders. What's worth spending your life if not that? Is it okay to get gray over those kinds of cases? Absolutely. That's worth it, right? Well, think about this for a second. If Christianity is true, it is the cure for what's killing all of us. What better cause could there be to get gray over? What better cause could there be to lose sleep over? What better cause could there be to maybe watch a few less movies, watch a few less of your favorite thing on Hulu or Netflix or whatever it is you're wasting your time on? Because I'm just as guilty as you are. I'll give you this, okay? But if I could cut some of that out, wouldn't this be the cause that was worth my time and effort? In the end, the thing that separates Christians from Christian case makers is often simply how hard are you willing to work to research the case, to master the evidence, to understand what the evidence is, to refine your skills as a case maker, to lean into the kind of character that you have to influence a culture. If that cause is not important enough to get old over, to get gray over, to lose sleep over, what cause would there be if not the cause of Christ? So I think this is the thing that separates the men from the boys, if I'm honest, the women from the girls. This is what I think separates us as a culture, and what we have. It has to be an incredibly high bar. Let me just close by saying this. If you're a cop and you're doing a little bit wrong, you need to be fired. There's a high bar for cops. We can't be doing anything wrong. It shames me when someone does something stupid as a police officer. That ought to be the kind of high bar we have as Christians. No one should know our case or the case against us better than us. We should know everything more than anyone else. I hope this show and others like it will help you to do just that. So until next week, I'll see you right back here at Cold Case Christianity.
Thanks for joining us at the Cold Case Christianity broadcast. If you're interested in more information about this week's topic, please visit coldcasechristianity.com. For a thorough investigation of the reliability of the New Testament Gospels and the case for Christianity, be sure to purchase Cold Case Christianity. A homicide detective investigates the claims of the Gospels. It's available wherever books are sold.